Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday morning. It is 9:15 a.m. Central Time, and that means it is time for the Sunday morning Science of Mind class at CSLDallas. My name is Tracy Brown, and I am so delighted to be doing one of my favorite things, which is hanging out with you and reminding ourselves of the teaching of the Science of Mind. If you're following along and you have the Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes within easy reach, then we are going to be beginning near the bottom of page 290 in the chapter on mental equivalence in the section Perfect Action, No Mistakes. But before we dive in, I invite you to please join me in just a few seconds of centering. And as I breathe in and exhale everything that is ready to be released, I simply remember that there is only one thing happening here, and that is diving deeply into understanding the nature of God, the nature of spirit, the nature of life itself, guided by the wisdom as it was shared through and by Ernest Holmes. This is the perfect opportunity to connect the spiritual truth, the divine beingness, and the human beingness. So let us dive in together with joy, with curiosity, and with a willingness to learn and open up to a new understanding. Let this be so now. Amen, and so it is. I always like to take a minute and center, because it's so easy to read Science of Mind text and to operate from the human level. But we want to do both. We want to understand the divinity, which is spiritual law operating always, in always, and also how we apply that to our human experience as we navigate. So the chapter that Dr. Petra has been leading us through the past few weeks is the chapter 17 on mental equivalence. And we've spent so much time on this because the material is so rich. And in fact, in my opinion, this chapter 17 is the one that for many people unlocks the key, or is the key that unlocks being stuck or not knowing what to do. So we're near the end of the chapter in the section Perfect Action, No Mistakes, which began on page 290. And actually, we talked about that some last week. I just want to remind you that the first sentence in that section reads, "In mental work, we must realize that there is one infinite mind, which is consciously directing our destiny. And it's up to us every day to declare, no mistakes have been made, none are being made, and none can be made." This is partly why we talk about everything being either good or leading to good, and being careful about judging the efficacy or the value of things that happen too quickly, which is what happens when we judge them basically and only on a human scale, because our life is constantly unfolding. So if we believe that and we understand that everything is perfect action and all the puzzle pieces are fitting together to create a new puzzle, then it allows us to move into where we're going to start today at the bottom of 291. I think earlier I said page 290, but 291, last paragraph. "There is but one activity which is perfect. Nothing has happened to it. Nothing can cut it off. It's always operating. there is no belief in inactivity. What is this statement for? To neutralize the belief in inactivity. A word spoken in mind will reach its own level in the objective world by its own weight. Just as in physical science, we know that water reaches its own level. So you must destroy the thoughts of inactivity. Man cannot become either discouraged or afraid if he realizes that there is but one mind, which he may consciously use. So I'm going to stop there. We're going to repeat that. And as I'm reading it again, I invite you to think about, how does that apply to me? Or, wow, I get it, but I don't live it. What gets in the way of you actually living from this place where you have no belief in inactivity? So I'm just repeating from the top of the paragraph, and then I'm curious. I'll be asking you how this resonates with you, or what examples come to mind for you in your own life. There is but one activity which is perfect. Nothing has happened to it. Nothing can cut it off. It's always operating. There is no belief in inactivity. What is this statement for? To neutralize the belief in inactivity. A word spoken in mind will reach its own level in the objective world by its own weight. Just as in physical science, we know that water reaches its own level. You must destroy the thoughts of inactivity. Man cannot become either discouraged or afraid if he realizes that there is but one mind which he may consciously use. The real man knows no discouragement, cannot be afraid, and has no unbelief. Now this is a really challenging chapter, or not chapter, but paragraph for many people, because to remember that there's only one activity and it is always perfectly unfolding is hard to believe if your house has been broken into, or if you have recently received a diagnosis and are struggling with some medical challenges. It's hard to believe that everything is perfect. And so you heard me say perfectly unfolding. For many years, whenever I would read perfect in the Science of Mind text or in other metaphysical writing, I would mentally translate that to perfectly unfolding, that everything is fitting together. And for me, the image of a big puzzle with more pieces than I can even imagine putting together, and remembering that there is an infinite intelligence that can see all the pieces and knows exactly where they belong and how they fit together, and that's what's happening. And sometimes, in order for that to happen and for the pieces to fit together perfectly, I might experience rubbing up against another puzzle piece that doesn't feel good to me, or doesn't feel like something I chose or that I asked for. But remember, we're in this section of the chapter called Perfect Action, No Mistakes. So this paragraph reminds us that all of it's working together to move me toward, and to move us toward, the higher vision or the desired goal. Also, what's in this first part of this paragraph is this point about it does not serve us to believe in inactivity. that nothing is happening, or that we're stagnant, or that we're stuck. Because there's always activity happening, moving us forward. And when we get in the humanness of we're stuck, this doesn't work, or I'm just going to wait and see what happens, then we are slowing down the movement. We are slowing down the momentum. In prayer, some of you have heard me say, and Spirit can never abandon me and never takes a vacation and never stops working for the highest and best good. And that is because of this paragraph, because I believe there is no such thing as inactivity. It is always moving toward the good. So I'm just curious. We've got several paragraphs to get through today, but before I continue on, is there anyone with a question or a comment of how you take up this idea? And Ryan, can you give people instructions so they know how to jump in?
Absolutely, and welcome everybody to the Science of Mind class. We love having you here with us. And this is an engaging time, right? This is not just a one-way Tracy talk kind of conversation. Although we love your silky voice, we do want to hear from you. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. One, if you're watching us here on the Zoom room, you could go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon, and that's located down below, a lot of times under the more option, or you can feel free to put your comments inside of the comments box. And that goes the same for people that are watching us on Facebook Live. If you want to hop over to the Zoom room, feel free to hit the link in the description above and leave your questions and comments, and we will bring them into the room. And I just want to always mention this because we have a lot of new people. We do keep these anonymous, so that way you are in a safe container, and we welcome any questions and comments that you might have. So let's hear from you. What are your experiences, or what are your thoughts? Would anybody like to share? All right, we have a couple of hands. So let's go ahead. We're going to call on Dennis. Dennis, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Good morning, Tracy Brown.
Good morning, Dennis.
Nice seeing you, man. There's a couple things here that, for me, that when you were talking about the perfection, what helped me was this phrase, perfect by design. Reverend Peter, this has come up in classes and at service enough to where I think I got a good grasp on this. Like, and my example is fig tree we have. Okay. Like you're saying, like life, the relative might not look perfect, yet back of it, it's all perfect by design. And like our little fig tree, we have this fig tree, we had it for years, and it grew in this tiny little pot, and I never repotted it. Well, it bent over. Well, Butch, my partner, he wanted to throw it out one day. And I just immediately go, no, it's live. He goes, well, look at it. And I go, no, it's perfect by design. I said, let's go buy a new pot. So we went and bought a new pot. Okay. The little tree over time, it straightened out. In fact, it grew so good that, I had to thin it out. Really. And then there was a bunch of bare leaves on it after I thinned it out. But as of today, it's all filled out again. So although it might not be completely straight up and down, there's still a little curve in it, but it's extremely strong. It's perfect by design. It's growing. It takes in sunlight. It absorbs water. You see, so that helped me with this perfection thing.
That is beautiful. And it's another way, I think, thank you for sharing that, Dennis, because all of us come to some practical example that is so real for us that then it will pop into our minds in different situations. And that phrase, perfect by design, is one of those that does come up to remind us, no, there's a design. And whether it's a fig tree or whether it's the people I work with, or whether it's what I'm reading in the news that's happening on a local, state, national, or global level. Always remembering that all these pieces are coming together and they are perfect by design, that every one of us, every fig tree in Dennis's example, is not supposed to look exactly the way, lean exactly the same way, express exactly the same way. And instead of getting stuck and being inactive because we get hooked by the appearance of it not being perfect, we can remind ourselves that no, it's unfolding. Ryan.
Yes, that was a great example, Dennis, and I appreciate that answer too, Tracy. So I want to go ahead and ask Connie to unmute yourself and go ahead and join the conversation.
Good morning, Tracy.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, and good morning to everyone. Well, I've shared this several times, and probably some of you have heard it before, but you all know I teach English as a second language, and in the classroom I tell the students, you can't make a mistake in this room. We don't have mistakes here or in this class. And if you say something that's not correct, let's just call it an opportunity for learning. And also, we can call it a gift to someone else because someone else has the same situation, the same question, the same issue. And it's very interesting to me how they want, if they say something that's not correct, they want to hide, crawl into the chair and be embarrassed and all that. But they're learning, for goodness sake, So let's call it an opportunity for learning. Now, my challenge is I need to apply this to myself and not pummel myself when I make a so-called mistake. That's what I need to do. Can you help me with that?
Well, the good thing is, Connie, I know that you hold yourself accountable for catching yourself and reminding yourself. So this section of this chapter is perfect for you because that absolutely is the mindset that allows us to keep going and to keep learning and to keep growing as we live this life. And it's a perfect connect into where the chapter goes next, which is really challenging for a lot of people. And I know I have in the past had my own challenges with it. So repeating the last sentence that I read before and continuing from there. The real man knows no discouragement, cannot be afraid, and has no unbelief. And he knows of the power with which he is dealing, and who plants a seed of thought and subjectivity knows that it will come up and bear fruit. Bring out the idea of substance. Make consciousness perceive that substance is spirit, spirit is God, and God is all there is. Once you acquaint your consciousness with this idea, it is implanted in the creative power, which is then externalized in your life. So, at the bottom of page 291, that one sentence, the real man knows no discouragement, cannot be afraid, and has no unbelief. Every fiber in my body sometimes wants to be like, are you kidding me? I would never be discouraged. I cannot be afraid. I never have any unbelief or disbelief in the power and the presence of spirit. So the reality is that in our humanity, we have moments where we're discouraged. We have times when we are afraid. We don't know if we're going to make it through the month. We don't know if our sick child is going to get better. We don't know how we're going to manage when someone close to us dies. We have moments of discouragement. We have moments when we're truly afraid of what is happening in the physical. And truly, many of us will have moments where we find we're not believing or behaving as if we believe in an always present, all-powerful, all-knowing spiritual energy and guide. But that is why we study, and that is why we practice. So that those moments don't become 5 years of disbelief. So those moments of discouragement don't become 10 years of believing nothing will ever get better. So this is where the rubber starts meeting the road. Do we really believe what we say we believe? And do we incorporate that in our lives? Continuing on page 292, continue to declare, there were no mistakes, there are none, and there never will be. I'm repeating that because it's so critical and I love to hear it as much as I can. Continue to declare, there were no mistakes, there are none, and there never will be. Say, I represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The truth is unerring. It never makes mistakes. There are no mistakes in the divine plan for me. There is no limitation, no poverty, no want, nor lack. I stand in the midst of external appearances, which is forever presenting me with the evidence of its full expression. I stand in the midst of external opportunities, which is forever presenting me with the existence of its full expression. I am joy, peace, and happiness. I am the spirit of joy within me. I am the spirit of peace within me. I am the spirit of poise within me. I am the spirit of power within me. I am the spirit of happiness within me. I radiate life. I am life. There is one life, and that life is my life now. All right. So you can tell I am pretty passionate about this paragraph right here. This paragraph right here, I go to page 292. Third paragraph, all the time. There have been times when I have typed this out, printed it out, and put it on my mirror and read it. What's so powerful here is that this paragraph is written in an affirmative way. Whether you normally use affirmations or not, or you're confused by them, or you feel like they work but you don't really know what to say, go to this page, 292 in the textbook. Open up the textbook and just start reading, beginning where it says say. I represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I don't care what's happening to me. I don't care that I just got this email that said that contract was canceled. I represent the truth, the whole truth. And there are no mistakes in the divine plan for me. So if that contract was canceled, it's part of a divine plan. It's not the end of the journey. It's opening up a new door. It's putting me in a position to say yes to whatever is coming up next week. I mean, that's the mindset. And it can't just be fake or pretend. It's like the more you take in this teaching and the more you use it and apply it in your life, when you are reading or reciting these kinds of statements or this paragraph, you know it is true. There are no mistakes in the divine plan for me. Now, I might make some mistakes. I might put some roadblocks up. I might temporarily believe in limitation. But in the divine plan, there is a path and a journey that I'm going to get back on as soon as I remember many of the things that are right here in this paragraph. There is no limitation, poverty, want, nor lack. I stand in the midst of external opportunity. External opportunity is forever presenting me with evidence of its full expression. And when I see that happening, when I see Dennis's fig tree flourishing simply because it was put in a bigger pot and had more room to express itself, it's like, oh, where in my life do I need to step into a bigger pot? Do I need to try something new, something bigger that allows me to stretch what I know and how I show up? And again, I'm just rereading some of these affirmations because they are on target, and I'm hoping they are reminding you of how you can use them, or maybe you have a question about how to apply them in your life. I am joy, peace, and happiness. I am the spirit of joy within me. I am the spirit of peace within me. I am the spirit of poise within me. I am the spirit of power within me. I am the spirit of happiness within me. I radiate life. I am life. There is only one life, and that life is my life now. Now I'm going to say a couple more things, and then we're going to turn to you. So that string of affirmations is so powerful because in our human mind, we often look outside of ourselves for the answer, the fix, the solution. We want someone else to do something to make us feel better. Or we say, well, I'll be happy when I get X, Y, or Z. Or I can feel joy after this person is no longer bothering me every day. That is not the spiritual truth, because what's true is that within you and in your relationship with the divine, you are already that. And how do you choose to express it? So one of my favorite questions that I find myself asking too much, if there is such a thing, but I've trained myself to ask. When something happens or someone does something and my humanness is triggered and I have judgment about it, I now almost automatically say, okay, Tracy, is that worth losing your peace with God? I mean, really. Like, this one human being has done this one thing that is really upsetting and you don't appreciate it. But when I do my spiritual practice later that day, I go, that is not worth me losing my peace with God or the peace of God that is already planted inside of me. Some people will say, will this even matter 5 years from now? But that still is kind of judging it on human and temporal or physical situation, condition. So this reminds us, and then the other thing that I love about this is that last sentence. There is one life. There's only one life. And that life is my life now. Some of you know the mantra or chant that many of us use. And it was inspired by this one line in the Science of Mind text. There's only one life. That life is perfect. There's only one life. That life is God. God is perfect, or life is perfect. That life is my life now. So, all right, there's a lot in this paragraph. I know one of our practitioners, Anita Pickenpaw, this is her favorite paragraph, or one of her favorite paragraphs in the entire Science of Mind text, and now it has become one of mine as well. What about you? What about you?
That is a great question. What about you? How does this make you feel? So let me share some of the stuff that has been coming through the chats, and I encourage you to go ahead and hit the raise your hand or put your questions or comments here in the chat while we're discussing this. And so to kind of circle back, because you went through a couple of affirmations, one of the comments that came in is that a person was watching a TED Talk specifically around this woman who, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but basically is validating the fact that we all deal with tragedy differently. Yes. And not to really rob ourselves of the experience, because there is feeling. So it's kind of that balance. I understand that I'm a part of this cosmic plan, if you will. Maybe not plan is the best word, but this conscious cosmic thing that's going on, and that its intention and its good might not appear the way it should in that current moment, and people have those feelings, and it's real to recognize them.
Yes, yes, yes. Hold on, before I know you've got more, but I cannot let that go, because when one of the things that happens a lot when people get into metaphysics and spiritually guided living is the false belief that if I'm doing my spiritual practice, I will never have negative emotions, I will never feel bad, nothing bad will ever happen to me. So if something happens that feels uncomfortable or scary or challenging, I must not be doing my spiritual practice right. Or, someone will say to them, well, it was in your consciousness, and so you brought it on yourself. No. So let me be really clear. I think that's one of the reasons I said, yeah, I'm going to have moments or days or, in the loss of a loved one or a diagnosis, I'm going to be monitoring the fact that I experience, as the comment said, tragedy in my human experience. I just know that doesn't totally define who I am. But I am one of the people who will always say, feel what you feel, because that's a part of going through it. Just don't allow it to become the only thing you perceive about life. And these kinds of affirmations, when we use them, they don't make the pain totally go away when we're in the moment of challenge, right? They're like our anchor so that we don't go free floating out in a hurricane in the ocean. They anchor us and bring us back to a grounding. And it might take 5 minutes, or it might take 5 weeks, or it might take 5 months, or in a really challenging situation, it might take 5 years to come back 100%. But these are the kind of affirmations that will guide you through the tragedy. You can't wait until afterwards. Ryan.
Yeah, and I just want to circle back to this too, because this is great. So Bobby, we have another t-shirt idea inspired here by Tracy Brown. And it's going to be a t-shirt that just on the front of it, well, I guess we could put it on the back of it. It makes a little bit more sense that way. Is it worth losing your peace over? ? I was saying put it on the back because, usually people walk away from the situation, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
So that was a great one.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to call Shauna into the room. Shauna, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Good morning, Tracy and Ryan and everybody.
Hey, Shauna.
So, Tracy, this section was just divinely brought to me this morning. Next week, my brother starts 3 months of chemotherapy with MD Anderson. And, we're very blessed to be at MD Anderson. But, the care has just been amazing and brilliant people, but just such heart-led people. But as we run up to the preparation of chemo, now the legal liability part of our society kicks in. And my brother is getting these lists of drugs and all the horrific side effects, right? And I just realized as we go through this today with you that that's been triggering both my brother and I, right? And so we have to go back to knowing that, as you say, everything is happening in divine order. All his treatment will be divinely guided. His body will take what it needs and release everything else. And I just need to remind myself, and I need to remind him, because once the legal liability steps in, it's hard not to be triggered by all the scary stuff you're required to read and sign. And I realize I just need to let it go.
Shauna, what a journey that you, your brother, are going through, and so many people have gone through, but it doesn't matter what happened to anyone else, right? Your brother is not a statistic. He is having his journey, and you are having your journey as someone walking through this with someone you care so much about. So I love several things that you said, and your example is perfect for all of us to remember that the human experience is supposed to happen. It's not wrong, and we cannot avoid it and make it go away. We are both spiritual and human. So the physical experience of a medical diagnosis, a physical experience of treatment plans, a human brain labeled legal liability, that triggers our human brain to analyze what's the risk. Is this good? How many people have had this side effect? Well, is this side effect more serious than what we're taking the drug for? What if this? What if that? Our brain is doing its job. It is physiologically designed to process information, categorize it, and to help us make choices that keep us what we think of as safe. But being able to navigate that and live in our humanness, and at the same time to be able to say, in the bigger picture of life, in the bigger picture of spiritual life, divine life, I know this too is true. And that's what I hear you implying in different words, Shauna, that choosing to remember, recall, and to put affirmations or meditation or readings in the daily experience that keep you grounded, keep your brother grounded. That's what our job is, so that we don't get so far down the track that we lose faith, that we lose hope, that we forget and give the human experience more value, more attention than what we know is our eternal life expressing. So I could say so much more about that, but I think we have a couple more comments.
But I'm going to cut you off. Dun, dun, dun. And this is why you have to stay tuned every week, because we always get deeper and deeper in these intricate conversations. So it's wonderful. Thank you so much for your input. So I'm going to call up Jael. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hi, Tracy.
Good
Hi,
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I am. I love that I pressed the button to zoom in today because it's exactly what I needed to hear today. I've been dealing with a few triggers from my past family and traumas that I've experienced, and I'm thankful for CSL because a lot of things I learned has me in a calmer space than I've been before in the past dealing with these triggers. So I'm very, very thankful for this. In the midst of, so what happens when I get triggered is I go into planning mode. And I get the affirmations, I feel the affirmations, I sit in the affirmations, but I have to figure out my next step. And I'm fighting myself. I know I am. Like, it's like I'm not releasing it to spirit, but I have been in practice of defending myself, protecting myself by just planning and knowing what my next step is going to be. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, you just shed all the light that needed to be. Like, there's a spotlight on it. You can see it. You actually can name it. You can describe it. And that's really like 2/3 of changing it, right? We can't change something that we don't even recognize. So the fact that you can recognize it is a huge step forward. And you can let go of what what you've done in the past, because as you said, you can see yourself responding differently, but your brain is doing what it is trained to do. And you have developed over the years coping mechanisms, analysis, and planning. Good for you. Good for you. That's what's gotten you to today. So what's the next step of the journey? How about, what would happen if instead of thinking about you have to give it to God or let go of it and get out of the way and just let God do what God's going to do? Is it a different feel if you begin to think that, okay, beginning right now, I am going to partner with Spirit. We're doing this together. Because see, what happens is when you go into planning mode, most likely, for most of us, we go into planning mode because we think, well, I'm going to be the one to fix it. I've got to figure it out. You use that phrase. I've got to figure it out, and then I've got to decide what to do, and then here are the steps, and I'm going to whip this back into shape, or I'm going to fix this relationship, or I'm going to, make this problem go away. I. It's all on me. But the last sentence that I read from the paragraph, right, there's only one life, and that life is my life now, means that my life is integrated in. I can do nothing without Spirit. I am simply choosing to be Spirit expressing in this situation. And that means everything that's in my brain is mostly human stuff that I've learned, that I've taken on. So if I were actually operating from the absolute principle of love, well, what might I do differently? What might I say? Oh, if I were actually grounded in peace, spiritual peace, how might I see it? So it becomes that I'm partnering with Spirit, I'm partnering with spiritual law, I'm using the power of spiritual truth in the absolute to guide me, not just my brilliant brain. So hopefully that helps. And again, I do what I do. I go to page 292 and I read these affirmations over and over and over again. Not so much when I'm in the turmoil or in the problem, but I read them all the time so that they come to mind when there's a problem. So what else do we have before we wind down, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I just want to mention that we have a lot of courses and classes that are coming up that are talking about this, and I heard that there is one called Treatment 2.0. That might be an interesting one because it's taught by yours truly, Tracy Brown. So I definitely want to encourage folks to go and take a look at that, as well as check out CSLDallas.org for all your spiritual content, classes, workshops, and fun short videos. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you online wherever we see you.
So as we close out this morning's class, I cannot encourage you enough to just put in your mind page 292 in the textbook and that paragraph. And we don't often give you homework in the Sunday morning class, but it is a class. So today I'm giving you some homework if you choose to accept it. So at the bottom of 292, Ernest Holmes reminds us that when we see things as bad or problematic, we also have the power to shift that and see it as simply a part of the evolution toward something that will have a positive outcome. And then there is a meditation that closes this chapter. It's 4 paragraphs, and Ernest Holmes recommends that this following meditation can be used when you find yourself having negative beliefs that are false beliefs. And so your homework is, I really encourage you, if you have the textbook at some point between now and next week, read that meditation and reflect upon it on page 293. And that will set you up perfectly for being with Dr. Petra next week, talking about the law of attraction. My name is Tracy Brown. I'm a practitioner here at CSL Dallas, and I hope this has blessed you and you take this teaching of the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes into your week. Have a great one and join us for service in just a few minutes. Bye for now.